Thank you all again for joining. I think we're going to jump right in because we have a lot to cover today. My name is Grace Fry. I am our Network Engagement Manager at Catalyst Ed. Like I said, I know I've seen several of you. We have a couple other team members on the call. We have Taysa Muller and we have Alicia Stewart, and we also have Mel Evans. So if you see any of those Catalyst Ed people and you have a question, don't be afraid to reach out. So today we are talking all about our provider selection and competency update request process. I know some of you received an email yesterday that was a little bit funky, that was talking about how to join the network, but as we already know, everyone here is already a part of our network. So what we are talking about today is going to be how you can update and expand your profile in our network. This is a completely optional process, but it is something that we know we've been hearing from y'all for a long time that we'd like to see that happen. So we're going to spend some time talking about what is selection. We're going to spend some time talking about what is new this time. A big one there, you might have remember the term renewal, and you realize you haven't heard it in this time around. We're going to talk about the criteria we're looking for optimizing your application, and hopefully then we're going to leave about 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. So I think we have the Q&A turned on. Let's use that for any questions that we have. But if you are having any trouble, you can always pop back into that chat. And like I said, I've got a couple team members there who are going to monitor for us. So let's get this going and let's start talking about why we're here. So first, I kind of want to ground us in why we do selection, what it is, why we have it, and then go from there. So the reason we have a selection process is not about gatekeeping, but rather to ensure that our network has the talent needed to successfully serve our partner organizations. The selection is integral to our mission, and it ensures that we connect partners with providers who can drive impact, innovation, and equity. And then lastly, for the first time, we are taking an evergreen approach to selection. Until now, selection has been a lengthy and infrequent process. The last time our current providers had an opportunity to update yourselves in our network was going to be that renewal cycle that we ran in 2021. With this new evergreen system, though, we're inviting consultants with any competency expertise to apply to join or to update your profiles in the network at any time. And this is going to allow you the ability to join and refer peers and continuously update your profile as your business shifts and grows. This is relevant because we have introduced what we're calling the competency update request. This is a new part of our evergreen selection system, meaning that you can apply to update your competencies or also add new sectors. And we'll get into what that looks like later in the presentation. But if you are thinking, I remember this renewal thing, I remember going through renewal, it's going to look a little bit different this time. Mainly that renewal was a process that we followed to kind of shift a lot in our network all at once. So that's when we moved from our areas of expertise over to our competency groups. So when we introduced our provider guiding principles, and it's also when we introduced a lot of new tech to our system and to our process. So renewal was that one-time thing. Evergreen is our process moving forward. So let's talk about what an actual update request is going to look like and what the steps that you'll follow. So if you have taken a look at our Evergreen application, you'll see there's a lot more questions involved. There's the process of actually joining the network. Since this room is full of providers who have already joined our network and who we're excited to have you in our network, the process for expanding your profile is actually much shorter, much quicker, much easier. So what you'll do is that you will submit your request, and that is if you are hoping to add new sectors. So that's going to be either education, nonprofit, or place-based partnerships, or if you're looking to expand your competency areas. What we'll do is we'll ask you to select no more than 2 new competency groups for a total of 5. So that should ring some bells from people. That's a new thing this time around. You'll answer a couple short answer questions. You'll share your expertise. You'll share work samples and professional references. Step 2 is that we're going to reach out to those professional references, and they are going to fill out a quick form talking to us about your work, about you, about working with you. It's the same reference form that you went through when you joined the network. And then once that is complete, references and your application, we will send that over to our panel of reviewers, and they will take about 2 weeks to review review the application and get that decision back over to you. So once we have a completed application, which is that request from you and those reference forms, that is when it will move forward to review. Sometimes we see that references can kind of hold that process up if someone's out of at the office or they weren't expecting to receive the form. So if you submit your application and realize it's taken a couple weeks and you thought you'd hear by then, you might check in with those references to see if there's anything missing on that side. So it's a quick 3-step process: submit, reference, decision. So now let's talk about what's new with this. And I keep mentioning a couple different things, but the biggest thing is that it's evergreen. So that means in the past, you had to apply on a quick timeline only when it was open, and then you had to kind of get a lot in all at once. Now, with this evergreen process, you can take the time that you need to feel ready to apply or ready to update. And included in that evergreen is going to be our competency updates. So that is for current providers. Next, that's new is that we have increased the number of competency groups that current providers are able to add to their profile. So up to this point, you've been able to have 3 competency groups on your profile. Those groups, again, were when we went from areas of expertise to groups. We have 13 of them. They're live on our website, but we're happy to send that link out if you need it. Now we are increasing that to 5 areas, but you can only add up to 2 at a time. So if you already have 3 and you're adding 2, that would be good. If you, for some reason, did have 3 and then you wanted to add 3 more, you'd have to let us know which of those 3 original ones you'd want removed from your profile so that we could keep it at that 5 limit. The next new area for us is that we have introduced a couple new sectors to our network. So for a long time, Catalyst Ed has operated pretty exclusively in the education space, but we also know that our providers work with nonprofits on a regular basis. We also know that we support a lot of nonprofits. So we're introducing a couple different new sectors. You'll all still be eligible for education if you already joined under education, which everyone did. That's already active on your profile, so you won't need to go through any process to add that to your profile. If you have already told us in the past that you worked with nonprofits through our context, then that should also be live on your profile. So we tried to keep these updated based on the information we already had so that you don't have to go through any unnecessary extra steps. The last new area that we are adding to our sector work is place-based partnerships. Now, place-based partnerships is a new space that Catalyst Ed is spending a lot of time in and that we're diving into. And the biggest thing to think about or to know when you start to see PBPs come through our network and through our project matching platform is that most of the work will be different, or excuse me, most of the work will be the same. It's the language that you're going to see and how people talk about that work that's going to be a little bit different. Oftentimes, there's a stronger emphasis on relationship management, collaboration, and working with communities. And PBPs have kind of their own lingo that's getting developed right now, kind of on the ground. So that's the biggest difference that you're going to see in those areas. Next is that we've updated our guiding principles. So everyone, if you are active in our network, you have already agreed to these guiding principles, but it might be worth taking a look at and seeing what's been added. The biggest thing is we have a new section kind of dedicated to how we treat each other within the network, so that provider to provider communication and contact. The next new thing that we're introducing is our priority competency areas. So what this is that we've seen a real rise in particular areas that our partner organizations are completing projects within that we don't have a strong enough base in our network. We have some people doing really great work, but right now we're seeing that we have a higher supply of projects in these areas than we do providers in the network. And so priority competency areas means that the application review of these areas will be accelerated, but it will not change the level of vetting or the amount of rigor that goes into that application review. So our current priority areas are going to be revenue generation, technology and data, and communications and advocacy, which means that if you submit a competency update request that includes one of those 3 areas, your application will probably be reviewed just a little bit faster. We're also introducing some new competencies within areas that have already existed, specifically related to the place-based partnership work that we do. So we are expecting to see some projects in the next 9 to 12 months come in related to these areas. This is all already updated on our website, but I'll walk through them right now so you've got it in your brain. But we've introduced new competencies. The first one is community planning in the strategic planning and implementation area, youth and family mobilization in our SEL area, public financing in the revenue generation area, and then in comms and advocacy, we've split out policy and advocacy into their own competencies. And then the last new thing is that this is a one-stop review process. So in the past, you've had to submit an application and then do your references and then schedule an interview, hold the interview, do some follow-up. What we've done this time is we've really streamlined it. You're going to have everything all in one place. You're going to submit everything you need. And then once we have a completed application, we're going to review it and get a decision back to you. So you don't have to worry about scheduling. You don't have to worry about back and forth, and you don't have to worry about a process that's going to take extra time in case something gets a little wiggly in the middle. So this really is a one-stop review process, both for our reviewers and for our applicants. So we've talked about it being a one-stop review, but what are you actually applying for when you submit a competency update request? A couple different things. The first one, competency areas. We know that your businesses have grown in the last several years. We know that you have developed new expertise or you've really dug in on new areas. So this is the main thing you're going to do. You're going to submit new competency areas. You're also maybe going to select new sectors. Now that we've had this conversation, you've learned a little bit more about that work. What you'll need is you'll need to submit short answer questions, work samples, and professional references. And then imagine the next question you might have is, okay, but how do I actually do that? And so that's pretty straightforward. This summer, we did launch our project matching platform. And Alicia, let's click over to that next slide, please. We did launch our platform. So if you have logged into that platform and you've seen all of the ways that you can view the projects that we post and see your invoices in the same spot, and the next tasks you have are all in that platform, you will also update your expertise in that platform. So what we'll ask you to do is navigate to your profile page on the platform, which means clicking that profile picture in the top right hand and then clicking my profile. It'll take you to this page where you see network membership details. And right there in the bottom left corner, you're going to see update expertise. When you click that update expertise button, it's going to pull up a form that you should be pretty familiar with. You'll navigate to the question that says, would you like to make any changes to your competencies or competency groups? And when you select, I would like to add competency groups or sectors and submit the form, you'll be automatically redirected to the update request form on that same page. So give it a couple seconds to turn over and get you the new form up, but you'll take care of it all in that same space. Now, I know I'm zipping through this information really fast because I want to give you time to ask questions, but the last bit I want to talk about is how you might optimize your update request. So what you can do to make sure that your update request is as strong as possible. And that first one is going to be focused on competency areas and sectors that are truly aligned with your work. Because you are familiar with Catalyst Ed and the projects that we post, you have a really good insight into what types of projects we post and what competency areas we post, which means that you probably also have in your head that there are certain areas that might be heavy hitters or that you see more projects in. What I would encourage you to do is really take a step back and analyze, is that a space that I actually do work in? Is that a space that I feel I have the expertise? And do I complete projects in that area on a regular basis? Sometimes we see individuals select areas that feel really high ticket, but then don't necessarily have the work samples or the references to back it up, and then they don't necessarily receive verification in that area. So I would really focus on picking the areas that feel really aligned to the work that you do. The next is I'm going to ask you to answer both parts in two-part questions. This is the number one thing that we've seen in the past, is that oftentimes our questions will have two parts, and someone does a really great job of answering the first part and then doesn't answer the second part, and that will result in a low score on our rubric. So if it's a two-part question, please answer both parts. The next is I'm going to ask you to make sure that your references know that we're coming into their inbox. So make sure that your references have the correct info and make sure that you have the correct emails for them. We get a lot of bounced emails of reference forms that don't go through because someone no longer works at an organization or there was a typo in that outreach. So make sure you're on top of your references. They're the number one thing that can hold an application back from moving forward to review if they're not completed. The next bit we're going to talk about is making sure that your work samples are clear, well organized, and visually compelling. So the work samples that you should submit should be strongly aligned and strongly demonstrate your chosen competency And information presented within your work samples should be clear, well organized, and visually compelling. We know that different types of work samples are going to be relevant to different work. And so we encourage you to find work samples that really align with the work that you're talking about. So, for example, that might be a case study that you authored that shows your expertise in the impact of your work. That could look like a final client presentation that shows engagement from beginning to end. That could be a news clip or reel or a press release. That could be examples of client websites, annual reports, newsletter or magazines. If you have to ask to redact the info, we might encourage you to find another work sample or to make sure that when you are submitting that redacted work sample, you can still get the essence of the work done and that our reviewers will be able to apply that work sample to your great application. And then lastly, we've got a lot of information online, both in an FAQ, videos, website. There's a lot of info that we've tried to think through to make sure that we answer the questions that you have. I would definitely encourage you to take a look at all of those resources. We'll share them out again in the follow-up email after this call. If there's anything that you don't see in there that you're like, I think I have one more question, you can always reach out to selection@catalysted.org. That's going to go to the entire network engagement and selection team. So you'll definitely have a lot of eyes on that and we'll be able to get you to the right answer. Okay, we zipped through a lot. We have about 11 minutes left. I know that I see one question in the chat, but definitely feel free to start submitting your questions now. Okie dokie. Jordan, if these work samples are on the platform, will we not need to also include them in the written proposals we submit to clients? So these work samples are not going to live on the platform. These work samples will go into the review package and then a reviewer will see them, but they are not going to be active on your profile, which also means that we won't share these work samples outside of our review panel. So there you have confidence in that confidentiality. You got it. What other questions are coming up for people on the call? Denise, is there a place to find the questions in the application? I'd like to be able to write up the responses prior to uploading the information for the application. There is not a place right now where you can just find the questions, but once you open that application, if you don't have time to finish it or if you want to look at it and come back to it, it will save your progress as long as you're using the same website or like the Chrome versus Safari, as long as you're using the same one on that same device. So if you're doing it on your laptop, I recommend you do it on your laptop again, but you will be able to come back and see those questions. Terry, how many references do we need? You need one per competency area or sector selected. So if you pick two competency areas, that's going to look like two references. If you pick a competency area and a sector, that's also going to look like two. You got it. I see one in the Q&A that says, I went in to update my profile, but did not see the format here. What can I do about that? Oh, I also see that it got answered. And I'll just read that out for the room as well. If you see a banner asking you to agree to the guiding principles, you'll need to do that first before you see that button that says update expertise. If you don't see that banner and you also don't see that question that says update expertise, then I'd recommend you reach out to product@catalyst-ed.org. I know my team will throw that in the chat when they have a moment, but that's going to get you right in front of our tech and product team who are going to be able to troubleshoot with you and figure out what's going on. Okie dokie. Oh, hi, Brett. How do we invite consultant friends to join Catalyst? Great question. So all of the information is live on our website right now. So we have a specific apply to the network page, which my team will throw in the chat. We also have a referral form that's been active in the past that gets automatically added to our outreach. So if you were to have referred someone in the past, then they should have already heard about this time around. And if they didn't, we can add them to that list as well. So We're going to throw that link into the chat for that apply page. And when you share that with your friend, the very first thing they'll see on that page is a bright orange button that it says apply to the network now. Yes, Lisa, all of this information is going to be sent out. This recording will go out. All the reference or the resources that I've mentioned is going to go out. So you can refer back to it as you need to. I know we zoomed through it really quick this time. Yesterday we had another webinar with interested consultants and we definitely ran out of time. So I wanted to make sure that we had enough time to get through all questions today. Jordan, is there a specific process if we want to partner with another Catalyst provider on a proposal? Tisa, I know you're on this call and I know this is a little bit more your domain, but do you mind hopping in and let us know what process providers should follow if they want to partner with another provider on a proposal?
Yes, great question. There's a couple of different answers here. If you're looking to partner with a provider who you know is also a member of the network, has already applied, been accepted, I would reach out to them and ask for their provider ID. It's actually on the same page that Grace was just sharing earlier, your profile page. And that ID will kind of be the key as you're creating a draft proposal for the project to add another provider from our network. What that would allow you to do is both of your profiles will be visible on the proposal, and then you would have shared answers for relevant experience for the project, your approach for the project, etc. All of that information is in the FAQs on our platform. So if you're logged in and you want to hear more about exactly which steps to take, go ahead and navigate to that FAQs page. And there's a question on how to collaborate with providers in the network that'll walk you through it in more detail.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tisa. And definitely, Jordan, if that's not clear, if you need more information, please don't be afraid to reach out to that product at Catalyst Ed website or excuse me, email address again. I see another one that says, is there a page or reference that explains the different competency groups? And yes, there is. We did already throw that link into the chat, but I'll just talk about that with the room for a second. Now, I did mention we have 13 competency areas. When you go to our competency area page on the website, you'll see learn more buttons under each of those areas. And when you open that up, you'll get a really in-depth definition of the competencies within each competency area. So you should be able to get a little bit more knowledge and information about those competency areas and what's included in them before making any decisions in your application. Awesome. We have about 4 minutes left, so I'll do a one, one last call for questions, and maybe we'll be able to give y'all, 2 minutes back in your day. But let's give it one more second to see if there are any more questions coming through the chat. There is no due date. Great question, Brett. So Brett's asked, say the due date again. We don't have one because this is an evergreen process. That means that we are leaving that application open on a rolling basis. So if you think this is something that's really interesting to me, but I am swamped for the next 2 months and I just don't have a chance to sit down and do it, you will not miss your opportunity. In 2 months, that will still be there for you. If you have a friend who wants to apply right now, right now, they can totally get that started, get that application in, and then once those references are in, we'll move forward with a review. If you realize that you've got a project that's in motion that's going to really be able to speak to your expanded competency area and you want to wait for that project to finish so that you have a new reference or a new work sample, I would also encourage you to do that. Whatever makes the most sense for your business and for your need to expand your profile in the Catalyst Ed network, we've tried to make this process malleable and adjustable so that it really works for you. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining. I know we covered a lot of information and I know we did it pretty quick. We will be sharing all of this info in a follow up email. But if you have any questions that you want to ask directly or that didn't get answered today, please reach out to selection at catalyst-ed.org. If you have any general questions about Catalyst Ed, you have a partner org who's interested, or you want to list a project or anything, you can send that over to info at Catalyst Ed, and we'll get you to the right person on the team. But again, my name is Grace Fry. I'm your network engagement manager, and I will be online for the next minute or so if anyone has any last questions. But thank you all so much. We're excited to open this up, and we're excited to give you the opportunity to expand your profile for the first time in a while. So thanks so much.